Well, Andrea, it looks like we're live on Facebook. Hang on one second while this streaming starts to work properly.
Okay. Put my smile on so it doesn't catch me in a weird facial expression like it does every time.
Like it does every time. There you go. Hey, we're here. The gang's all here.
Here we are.
Almost. Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful day, but what a sad day. What a sad day for the world.
Yeah. Sizzle Nation is saddened today. That's for sure.
You know, and I feel worse probably for the people that didn't know Tom,
Right.
right? They didn't know Tom, they didn't know Sizzle, they didn't know what he could bring to us and to the rest of the world.
You
Holy
know,
cow.
and I've always loved Tom's passion. Like, I can totally relate to that because there's certain things in life that I'm passionate about, and it's not work for me to do those things. And
That's
that's
right.
how it was with Tom. He was so passionate. At his age, he was in there working every day, sometimes late into the night, you know. He was just passionate about it, and it wasn't work to him.
That's
He
right.
didn't have to do any of it.
That's right. Yeah, it was just last summer when I was hanging out there, and last fall when I was hanging out there. You know, the guy was a machine. He'd get up in the morning, and before I'd even be crawling out of bed, he'd already be down at the office. And
Yeah.
who does that? But
Right?
you know, the thing about it is, Andrea, in life, if you can find those things like you said that you're so passionate about, you enjoy doing it so much that it's not work anymore.
That's
It's
right.
it's not work. And then the things that you don't like doing, the things that you hate doing, you find somebody else that has a passion for that. You find somebody
Hmm.
else that loves doing those things so that it's not work to them to do the things that you don't like to do, and you find the things that you like to do that not work for you, and all of a sudden you become a team.
That's right.
you know and that's really what we had with Sizzle. Tom was just, such a brilliant biochemist. For those of you that just joined us, those of you that may not be aware, we lost a great man. We lost a great visionary, a maverick, a true maverick in today's world, on Sunday night.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are asking me, Andrea, they're saying, well, what happened?
Right. We
And,
don't know.
the thing about it is, does it really matter?
Right?
Yeah. What happened is that he passed away. God came down and said, hey, you've done your job. Let's go. That's how I view it. And a lot of people, they go through life, they don't know what their job is. They don't know their reason why they're here, why they're on the planet. And they go through life not having a mission,
Right. Right.
not ha- not having not understanding their purpose. I talk about purpose a lot, like, and I think one of the reasons that Tom and I got to be friends is that we aligned on our mission and on our purpose. My purpose has always been to help people live happier and stress-free, pain-free
Hmm.
lives.
Right.
And that's why I went into chiropractic, and that's why I enjoyed chiropractic. Monday, everybody hated Mondays. I loved Mondays. I got to go back to the office, you
Hmm.
know, and I didn't mind working late on Friday nights. And that's really what how Tom was with what he did with Sizzle and what he did with being a scientist, master formulator, and just really a true visionary in what he did.
Yeah, he was. And, I remember him saying that he felt like he was gifted on both things. He felt like he was gifted in the science and bringing all of that to the table, but he was also gifted in people skills and sales and things like that. So he understood all of it. It was
Yeah,
like just God gifted him in those areas, and this was probably his true purpose in life.
Yeah, he was gifted in both sides of the coin, which is really odd because you never see you know somebody that's really good in science and math also being good in communication and I mean think about the scientists that you know, the people that are really into science. They're they aren't very good communicators.
Right, right.
But Tom was so dynamic, he would get up there and up on stage and he could wow the crowd.
Yeah. He was passionate about that too.
He really was. I remember I'd go out there and I'd hang with him and we'd spend hours talking about the science and then we'd flip over and we'd spend hours talking about life, just people.
Mhm.
And
Yep,
and I learned so much from him on both sides.
right.
But a lot of people are asking me, they're saying, what happened? And like I said, I said, does it really matter? But I mean, once you got to know the man, once you got to know Tom personally, I was sitting there last night. I was flipping through all the photos um, from the last 7 or 8 years, hunting and fishing and
Hmm.
you know things like that we did outside of that Tom and I did outside of work, and you know, um, yeah, it was he was very passionate about that too. I mean, he had a saying: if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
Right. Well, it surprises me some of the stories that you've told me about Tom, because to me, like, just to see the man, in the first place, I always thought he was much shorter than he actually is. But just to see him, he seemed like, oh, kind of like the dusk kind of guy, not the rough, tough guy that he really was out there, taking on nature and everything.
Right? Yeah. How can you look serious as an outdoorsman wearing Liberace's clothes?
That's true. He loved his horse clothes.
Yeah, he was really a showman that way, and and but he was passionate about life and about helping people and just really getting down to earth and getting to know people as well, getting to know them
Hmm.
and he'd try and help everybody. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember sitting there with him and we'd be sitting at a restaurant and he'd be trying to help people that he had no clue who they were.
right.
And
He's very down to earth.
And most people just won't do that. They won't go out of their way to help their neighbor.
Right.
And so we really have to feel grateful
Hmm.
that we got to know him, not just on a business side but on a personal side. When you traveled with me out to Montana or out to Utah and got to meet Tom and see his
Yeah.
house and hang with him and be part of it and see how the Maoris really lived their life, what they did for fun, you
Hmm.
know.
Yep.
And I tell people, this last year it's been a tough year on me. I mean, I must be getting older because all of a sudden I'm starting to have friends dying, you know,
Hmm.
and prior to this last 2 years, I mean, it really never happened. I really never um, lost very many people in my life, and all of a sudden in the last year and a half, 5 or 6 have gone away, and three have been like Tom. My brother and my friend Jeff and
Hmm.
Tom, where they're real. I'm going to say larger than life. Larger than life is probably a great way to say it because they packed like I say, Tom packed 200 years of life into his one life. He
Right.
he he did what it would take, and some people in 200 years probably couldn't accomplish
Yeah.
what Tom. What
The
Yeah.
energy that he put into life was amazing.
Oh yeah, and the things that he did, like I mean, just the things that he did, and he always talked to me about, hey, let's go bear hunting someday. Let's go to Russia
Hmm.
and let's
Uh-huh.
go hunt. Let's go hunt some of those 12-foot bears over there, and I'm
A
thinking,
big gun.
right? I'm
I
thinking,
say,
holy
big
cow!
gun.
You know what they say. You know, when you're going bear hunting, you want to bring a friend that's slower than you because you can't
Right.
outrun the bear,
Is
but
that
you
why
can
you
out.
wanted to take you?
I think that's why he wanted to take me. He knew I had a bad leg, and so he knew he could outrun me. But he probably couldn't outrun the bear, but he could outrun me. And I remember we were out. He was like a little kid. I told him he was like a little kid. He'd take me out for a ride in the Jeep. We'd go out into the mountains out behind his cabin or behind his house, and we'd be bouncing around, bouncing. And one time, I hit my head so hard that I was dizzy for hours.
Yeah, you
And
warned me not to ride in a ultra terrain vehicle with him.
yeah, and and
Don't
and
go.
then when I saw this massive deer, it's got antlers out to here, and he said, get out, and because I had a deer tag, and he wanted me to shoot that one, and I got out, and it was on, it was only like 25 feet away from me, and
Wow,
I mean I'm so dizzy because I hit my head so hard. I'm out there like I couldn't find it
that's
in my
dangerous.
scope. I couldn't get that. I never and the deer just popped away, you know.
Right.
And he gave me a hard time about that. I'm like, holy cow, you smashed my head into the roll bar so hard that I was dizzy for hours. I probably had a major concussion.
You probably did.
But you know.
What was that crazy story you told me about him driving a Jeep off a mountain?
Oh yeah, him and his uncle Jim. And I don't know if I have the whole story exactly correct. All I remember is he said they were out hunting and they ended up on the side of the mountain and they couldn't get back up. They couldn't drive back up the other way. The only way to get the Jeep out of the mountains was going down. And they were on this cliff. And so the only way to get the Jeep to go down was to back up the 20 or 30 feet that they had and take a run for it and fly the Jeep over the edge and landed in the treetops and hope the trees would bend enough, give enough that the Jeep would come to a soft landing on the other side.
I don't know if that's stupid or brave.
And I mean, I verified it by talking to his uncle Jim, and it was a true story. And I'm like, holy cow, you guys! And
Right.
so people say, well, what happened? Well, life just catches up. I mean, I used to ride snowmobile a lot, and I share with people that I was riding with my cousin, and we were just going south of my house here, and we were riding, and the trails were all groomed and they're nice and smooth. It was
Mm-hmm.
like it was like riding on a snowmobile highway, right?
Right. Right.
Smooth trails, and I mean, you could go as fast as you wanted, and the trails were groomed, and they had road signs, and they let you know if there was an approach coming, things like that, and yield signs, all these different things. And Andrea, you know, that was kind of that's what most people think of when they ride snowmobile is they try to
Right.
find the trails that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And and I remember I was riding with my cousin and all of a sudden he veers off the trail and I followed him and we're cutting through trees, we're bouncing off of trees with the sleds. We're cutting through these cattail sloughs, and when we finally stopped, it was like, I mean, you knew why his sled had dents and it had duct tape holding the hood together and the windshield was taped and pop riveted back together and he knew how to ride. He knew how to ride a snowmobile and he had a lot of fun and that's how I started riding snowmobile and I ended up sometimes with my snowmobile hanging up in a tree or rolling down the side of a hill and
Right.
uh, and I blame it on my cousin because that's how he rode and I learned how to ride
Mm-hmm.
that way. But when you go through life banging against trees and sliding off the side of hills and things like that, um, eventually I think that your body just gets to the point to where there's things that are damaged beyond repair.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we take our sizzle products, our anti-aging products, um, some of these things that you run out of telomeres. You run
Right.
out your stem cells. You can only rebuild them stem cells so many times, and it catches up. It catches up, and it's just like, like I would never buy one of my used snowmobiles. I mean, if you saw one of my used snowmobiles sitting on the market with a for sale sign on it, if you knew me, you wouldn't even look at it.
Right.
It was worn out. I
Mhm.
I'd put 3 to 4 thousand miles on it, and it was shot. It was one of those sleds that, you know, you'd have to sell to somebody that knew how to fix.
Yep.
And I think that's that's the thing. Like I said, I've got a couple of friends that passed away this year, including Tom, that lived life to the fullest. They lived life bouncing off of the trees and
Hmm.
maybe jumping off of the cliffs and they had a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I'm guessing they're having a lot of fun where they are now doing
Right.
this.
But, even with that, so many people have had their lives totally changed from Tom's mission.
That's right.
Totally changed.
Totally
You know,
changed. I
you and
I
I
look at
can
it.
name people that probably wouldn't be here today
Oh,
if they hadn't
I
discovered Sizzle.
I don't know if I would be here, Andrew. I mean, when I got started with Sizzle, I was at a low point in my life. I was recovering from that motorcycle accident, and some of you may not know about it, but I got run into 13 years ago this month, 13 years ago in August. Um, riding my Harley, and some guy hit me at about 65 miles an hour, tore my right leg off, and they wanted to, when it was hanging on by threads, they wanted to amputate it, said I'd never walk again. And they put me on narcotics. I was on several different narcotics, and I look back at it now, and I was at a low point. I was suffering from major depression. I mean, I didn't recognize it. I don't think most guys really admit that they're suffering from depression, right?
Right. You're going through a tough time and you're toughing it out best you can.
Yeah, you just I'm just recovering, but I couldn't walk very well. I mean, to walk from here a block down the street. Um, it was difficult. I'd have to 5 years ago. I when I 3 years ago, I'd walk and I'd get a block down the street and I'd have to sit on the side of the road and wait for the muscle spasms to go away so I could walk another block, and then I'd have to do that again over and over and over again. And yesterday I went for a 5 mile walk with my dog. Now I got to
Right.
wait for now I got to wait for him to catch up to me,
Right.
right?
That's
And I wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't for what we have, the products, and somebody said this morning, they said to me, they said, well, but the products are so expensive. And compared to what?
right.
I mean, yeah, compared to what? I mean, sure, if you want to just go out and buy vitamin C, yeah, they're more expensive. You 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 pay for the formulation, and yeah, I mean, when Tom put an ingredient into something, he didn't just sprinkle it on top and say, oh, there you go.
Right. He
he'd
made it
put the
work.
he'd put the whole shebang in there. I mean, he'd load it up, you
Plus,
know he'd load it up. And we really have something. And somebody said, well, what's going to happen now? Well, yeah, we're just going to keep promoting what we have. I mean, because we have great, great, great product. But then on top of it, we've got Tom Jr.,
right.
who's already been jumping up in that saddle. He's already been saddling up Tom's horse and coming up with formulations, and we're just going to continue to have these great master formulations. And then coming up from behind, we got Thomas,
Yep.
Tom's grandson, that will be right there. And we got Liesel coming in from the side, that is, I mean, she's awesome. And
Hmm.
and Aaron and Milo, and I mean everybody together will continue this mission, the
Hmm.
Mauer mission that Tom started way back, you know, 30 some years ago, right? How many
Yeah.
years?
What a great legacy. that he's left.
Yep. And I don't know if my dad would be here if it wasn't for Tom. And I'll tell you a story, Andrea. I mean, I was with my dad. His lymphoma, the form of lymphoma that he was suffering from, was slowly taking him out. And I was at Mayo Clinic with him one time here about 5 years ago, and the doctor at Mayo Clinic, the specialist in this type of lymphoma that my dad had, said, "Yeah, I mean, looks like this is it." He said, "We've done everything we can. It's not working anymore." And he pretty much gave my dad an expiration date.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that was in January. And so I was with Tom later that month and hanging out, and we're sitting there at his house and sitting at the mansion, and we're talking. And and I said, "Hey," I said, "you got to help me out. We got to figure out
Mhm.
something. There's got to be something." And I remember, we sat there until 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden he came up with something, and he's like, "Here, this is it. This is it. Get your dad to do this and this and this." And I got back home, and I started working with my dad, and in 90 days the doctors were like, well, actually in 30 days they said something's changing. The doctors at Mayo. And then in 90 days, they said, we never see this happen.
Right?
And in 6 months, um, my dad had, I mean, he was coming back. He was coming back to life. I mean, he was building that muscle mass that he had, and he's building strength, and he wasn't looking like death warmed over. And
Hmm.
within 9 months, they were telling him that, hey, your kidneys are starting to function, and your liver's starting to function. It's actually reversing.
Which is unheard of in the medical realm.
Oh, at 77, 78 years old, where my dad was, um, yeah, the doctors said, they said, we never see that happen. I mean, and and uh, and now, here it is, 4 or 5 years later. I don't know exactly. I mean, my mom and I were talking about it, and she said to me the other day, and she said, I don't know. She said, I can't even remember how long ago it's been.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember he got a great report this past year from Mayo when he went back for a checkup.
just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, well, I was thinking of the last one then.
Yeah, he last October,
Hmm.
or last October, and then now again here, and and yeah, I mean, his kidneys and liver at 82 years old, he'll be 83 in December. His kidney and liver continue to improve,
That's
right?
awesome.
They continue to improve, and Dad was telling me here a couple weeks ago. He said I don't know what's going on, but he said the doctors are having to cut back on his thyroid medication. His
Hmm.
thyroid his thyroid went bad 30 years ago,
Yeah,
and now the doctors are saying for some reason your thyroid is starting to function better.
right. Well, I
And
bet there are literally hundreds of people who could share a similar story out there in Sizzle Nation.
yep,
People who were on the brink of something really disastrous
and
and they just,
we can't say cure, like I can't say, oh, this cured my dad. We can't say it treated him or anything like that, because the thing about natural products is that it supports the body's own system.
yeah.
And the problem with that is that if the system is so messed up, it might take years to fix.
Oh, it
And
took
so
years
many
to go bad.
It took years to go bad, or it took one
Hmm.
sudden impact, like me getting hit at 65 miles an hour, getting hit by a freight train almost, and you don't just fix those problems overnight. And
Right.
and uh, and so many people, they get impatient because they hear the stories, of like how your friend Rose improved
Yes.
like that. I mean, really, she improved like that.
That was a miracle, an absolute miracle. Yep.
They hear the story like my dad. And they
Hmm.
go, oh, I didn't have that same experience. It didn't work for me. I gave it, you know, this period of
I
time,
tried
and
it for 2 weeks.
right. And I remember I was talking to one lady, and she said, well, you know, I was taking one age pill a day and it didn't work. And I said, well, yeah, but that's not the dose. And for some people, I mean, like I have friends of mine who are taking 18 pills a day.
Yeah,
And
I have a friend who actually is my age and what was born with cerebral palsy. And she was taking one a day and got fantastic improvement in the function of her body within 2 months. So it just
within two,
depends.
and
Yeah,
we're
it's
all
amazing.
we're all different. We're all wired up
Yeah,
different. You know, were you on the call on Friday night? Last
Friday
Friday
night. Yeah, the
with
dog
Titus?
call. Yeah.
Yeah, the dog call. Yeah, and I liked what Titus had to say. Titus, he's very wise, and he said, he said we're really. He just said we're a bag of chemicals. We're all put together,
Mhm.
and and so sometimes that stuff gets messed up,
Yeah.
and from missing some of the
Missing.
chemicals, missing some of the minerals, or maybe toxicity,
Yeah.
screwing up the way that things are meshed together.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is line things back up, block them back together, put the right stuff in, take the bad stuff out,
Yep.
and I just summed up Titus's half-hour call. Is
Yep.
that's and it
Good
works.
in,
Not
bad out.
yeah,
Yep.
and so you know it's a sad day. We lost a great person, but I think that we need to really just keep pushing forward and letting people know that what we have is amazing. And
Well,
I
it
th-
is.
I think with Tom Jr. and Thomas and Liesel jumping in and saying, hey, we got to make this mission continue. What's nice is that now we're going to have maybe a little bit different angle coming in, looking at it from a little bit different angle, and the future I think is just as bright as it's always been.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
so anyhow, Andrea, I know we wanted to kind of keep it a short call today, and so I'll let you
Yep.
close out everything. Thank you.
Yep. And I know there are just hundreds, maybe thousands of people out there whose heart really goes out to the Mauer family. So we wish them the best and may God give them strength and comfort. Thanks, Doc.
All right. Thank you.